systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day and solve them with Globus. So what's Globus? So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. So how can you get started using Globus? Anyone can use Globus right now for free to transfer files between Globus-enabled systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus.
Ayo. 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 What up, though? Or carpe or afternoon? Um, yeah, special Saturday stream. This was the only time that I could get to have today's guests on due to their own circumstances. So I make adjustments. So hi to everyone in chat, watching on the VOD, lurking, hanging out. Do, 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 do. What up, Pyro? How you doing? Do, 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 do. So, so. All right. So, looking um at the tweets I have in my bookmarks here related to the subject, and oh, let me put myself where I belong. There we go. So, we have this related to this one. Remember? This is the guy used Chat GPT, Midjourney, other AI tools, and created this children's book, right? And like, I'll just read the tweet. This guy just loves AI and art and bringing kids joy, and there's hundreds of comments calling him to be jailed or literally murdered. Never been negatively polarized against a community so fast. Wild how much hate can be spread so fast in a community like Twitter. And like, you should be in jail. There's this jam, right? We got this over here. Sorry, one moment. Talking to the guest. Um, you know. So, I mean, I get it. I get why people get angry, especially yeah. In so like right there's the thing is like it's the copyright. And I don't know this person, right? Like they could be, they could be huge fans of copyright, right? Um, you know, and they look like a person of color. They're defending their income stream, um, all that good stuff. It's just you're like, one, you don't go to jail for copyright violations, right? That's just not how that works. You pay a fine, right? And you cease and desist, you pay a fine. Most often what happens in copyright issues is that people work out a licensing fee, right? There's actually a thing among some music producers that they just go ham and they sample whatever they're going to sample and they use it in the song. And then if somebody comes at them, then they just work out a deal with that person. But prior to that point, they don't even talk about paying that person. Right? Easier to apologize than to ask permission. That kind of thing. Yeah. Under the current systems, it also makes logical sense for them to do that, right? Like, why should I reach out and offer to pay you when I can begin the negotiations by I'm already using your stuff, right? And it also lends them a position of like, maybe you bust out a song and it's just not doing well. If you put it on a CD of 14 or whatever, then it's more problematic. But if you just release it digitally, like on Bandcamp, and the song in particular is not doing well, that tells you what you do, right? We're going to work out a licensing deal, or I'm just going to remove the song because nobody's buying it anyway. So I'm not condoning this logic. I'm just talking about the logic from their position, right? Like their behavior from their position and how I expect them to move, right? Because it's absolutely vital if you are going to attempt to operate in spaces wherein you have ideological opponents, that you understand their motivations and why they move the way they do and why they do what they do. Which is why I don't like when people give the impression, right? Like, especially on Twitter, they're posting about Ben Shapiro or Tucker Carlson, and they're talking about how these people they're dumb, they don't understand this or whatever. None of that is accurate, right? Everything that they do is calculated, if not by the individual talking head, by their handlers, right? Like, I don't think Steven Crowder goes out of his way to pick his targets. I think that what up, Lenny? Thanks for showing up. I think his group of writers and his producers decide what he's going to do and then just works off what they give him. Because if you ever see Crowder in public and versus him in the studio, he's much more refined in his arguments than he is when he's doing it on the fly, because it's more prepared. Because he's a wannabe comedian, wannabe actor, so on and so forth. So, his job is to deliver the lines, and it doesn't really matter if he writes them or if they do. But they're not dumb. They're not making mistakes. They're not 100%, right? Like, the failed comedian to right-wing pundit pipeline is very real. Yeah. It's you go to do a thing and you fail to do the thing and you blame the people, especially some abstract community for being responsible for your failure. It's not me, I'm funny. It's the woke left ruining humor, blah, 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 blah. But it's important. It's important. Now, don't get me wrong. A dude sitting in his truck with the Oakleys on. What's up, Z? That kind of person is going to be like, has a higher probability of being massively incorrect and uninformed. But you shouldn't think that Ben Shapiro is not informed regarding the the opinions that he generates on his shows. So when we look at something like this, right? They're assuming that like he is a bad person, right? And don't get me wrong, when I click on this and I see Palantir Tech up here, I immediately think that's Palantir, which is associated with what's his fucking nuts, Peter Thiel, and it could be, which could indicate his his ideological views, right? But he doesn't express his ideological views within this, so I took it all at face value, right? Like he's definitely pushing AI, so he's pro AI, obviously, but he at least takes the time in here to to ask the questions, right? And he, tested what's possible, that kind of thing. I assume he's selling the book, but there's no indication here that he's selling the book. But it could in fact be true. I did not look. Ellis and Sparkle. Yep, you can get it on Amazon. And this person is not talking about the content of the book. They're talking about how the book was created. I haven't read the book, so I can't counter any of these claims. But you can see that there is a lot of what's up, Miss Frizzle? There are a lot of opinions that really want it to be a certain way, and they're willing to conform how they get there, so that they will use the same tactics as, let's say, authoritarians in order to get their way, right? This is not how it should be. You can absolutely believe that AI, the way that it's gone with ChatGPT and Midjourney, that it is threatening to artists. It's 100% valid. You should just get there by building the scaffolding to get to that point, not have that opinion and then try to hold it in place. Because you will bend yourself backwards. You will make yourself nuts. You will twist your logic into whatever you need to do, and you will end up doing things that You will justify because of who it's being done to, not whether or not it conforms to your alleged professed set of values. When they talk about like right-wing hypocrisy, that's that type of behavior. The person who says no abortions, mandates no abortions, but has many abortions in their history. This kind of behavior, because it doesn't apply to them. Because it doesn't have to do with the thing you think it does. It has nothing to do with actually abortions. It has to do with hierarchy and who gets to do what. So, we're going to have Z-Manzilla on. Z, if you want to come into my Discord, you can go to the general voice channel. I'll pull you into the interview. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Check, check, check. Can you hear me? If you hadn't,
hey, can you hear me now?
There he is.
I see. I got it set up to push to talk, and now there's a delay going on, and I need to mute your stream there. I'm so sorry. One second. You're going to be talking about AI with somebody that's actually a little technology challenged.
Yeah, it's all you got to get the opinions of the Luddites, otherwise they'll burn your shit down.
All right, I should be set to voice activity now. How's that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound good.
Well, I knew that, but thank you.
So, are you going to be using a camera or no?
Oh, I can do that. All
if
right.
you like.
Hold on. All right. I like. All right. So, yeah, 1 second. I'm, as you may know, my main computer broke a couple weeks ago, and I'm still, I'm trying to negotiate things with this here, oh, geez. Well, you know, if you're gonna see me on camera, you better at least get the good angle. Hold on. Oh, that just messes everything right up. All right. All right. This is a weird angle for me, but a beautiful one for you. Let's turn it on. There you go. All right. Almost. Almost. I swear. I swear this is gonna happen for us. Maybe if I turn off the stream. Hold on. Can I pop the chat window so at least I can see the chat? How does that work? You know what? You're just gonna have to tell me what people say in the chat. I got to turn off my web browser and clear some resources.
Yeah.
This is more than this poor little ancient laptop can handle. There we go. All right, I think we're ready to perform. The correct amount of foreplay has been done. All right.
So, all right. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people. Let them know who you are.
Hello, I'm Phil Boyd Studge. Now that's a little reference. That's a Kurt Vonnegut reference. My name is Z-Manzilla, and I am probably the world's biggest Kurt Vonnegut fan. And I want to show you something really quick that Globus the Elder made for me. This is a cup that has all kinds of images and text from my favorite Kurt Vonnegut book, Breakfast of Champions. It's a fantastic cup. I drink coffee from it. I've been drinking coffee from it every day for going on about 1.5 years, 2 years now.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, this is a quality piece of drinkware right here. It keeps my coffee warm and insanely long, much longer than I should probably be safely drinking it, to be honest. But that coffee's still warm. You know, uh, and I enjoy it very much. And he did a very good job on this cup. It withstood the test. The top, not so much, but the rest of it is terrific. Um, and yeah, he did a terrific job on it. And if definitely go to him for all your drinkware with needs if he's still doing that. Did I just plug a service you don't do anymore?
No, I do still do it. I actually showed chat the other day what I'm working on right now.
Oh, good. Because if I'd have like plugged the thing that you're not doing, that would have made me a big one of these right here. So I went a little off page on you there. I'm sorry. What were we talking about?
It's quite all right. The name of the game out here is Stun Locks and Tangents. So you're supposed to be introducing yourself and tell the people what you do.
Hi, I'm Z Manzilla. I get a thing over on the Clock app. Oh, I'm not on the Clock app. I can actually say TikTok. So, if you're familiar with the weirdness of TikTok, that's a very funny joke. But if you didn't laugh, I understand. So, but anyway, I'm G Manzilla. I have something like 200 and gazillion followers on TikTok, and I did that by reading a thing called the Sesamero, which is are you familiar with tarot cards? Well, these are almost like them, and mostly not. So the way it works is I went to a dollar store one fine day. It would have been about March of last year, and I found these Sesame Street cards here, these flashcards for teaching kids like words and numbers and stuff like that, right? And I thought it'd be just a fun little thing to do for my channel if I started reading them like they was tarot. And so that long story short, it's several months later, and I've written a book about this, and I'm currently I've signed to make my own deck with my own artwork of these, because obviously I can't sell these because I don't own these characters, right? But I'll be doing a deck. I'm writing a second book, all about this stuff here. So if you like sort of semi goofy tarot system, tarot tangent content, I have fun with it, okay, and I think you will too. So, in fact, I just started reading this, currently going viral right now, because the cards came up and accidentally formed a naughty phrase. I'll let you go look that one up yourself.
But
the long story, yeah, the Sesamero's grounded. Let's just put it that way. All right, the Sesamero's grounded.
But you actually have people from the traditional tarot community who support what you're doing. Go ahead.
Yeah. In fact, I do tarot reviews now as well. I review tarot decks that come out. In fact, somebody just sent me this tarot deck right here. It's called the Illusory Tarot. I should hold it right side up, even though it's backwards. But it's called the Illusory Tarot, and this is I know I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Svetlana I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name. It would be disrespectful. But her first name is Svetlana. Her last name is a very long Russian last name. And she produced these tarot cards during a period of she was recovering from a car accident where she broke her art hand. And she spent like 10 months recovering from it after a 2-week coma.
Wow.
It was like roughest time of her life. So she creates this deck of cards. And what's interesting about it, like at first it just looks like, oh, it's a whole bunch of just weird new age art, right? But then you start reading into the how and why these pieces of art got created, and it's absolutely fascinating. And it's sort of talking its own little tarot language. So right now that's sort of the deck that's being discussed. I also got a deck that I just reviewed where I read tarot fortunes for your cat. Like I got a cat tarot deck, and I tend to mostly seek out the tarot decks that are goofy like me, or that they speak in a language that help people understand, well, why has tarot been a thing since the 14th, 15th centuries? It's very easy to write it off as, people just look for patterns and tarot is fake. Yeah, tarot is fake. What are you going to tell me? Wrestling's fake next? Come on. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. So you know, what are you going to tell me? The ventriloquist's little wooden man doesn't actually talk on his own? Like, you know, enjoy the show, you know?
Right.
So, anyway, what a lot of I do within the tarot community nowadays is I help try to bridge that gap between, you know, what the Rider-Waite tradition and Golden Dawn and all these mystical folks have kind of done, and, you know, bridge the gap between that spiritual part of tarot and the fun secular showmanship part of tarot, where it's a fun game, right? So, you know, and not the game it was originally meant to be played. It's a fun mind game. It's a fun story game, you know?
Right.
So I'm helping to bridge that gap, and it's helping people learn how, you know, why you might want to learn to read tarot, even if you don't, you know, believe in witchcraft or whatever. You don't have to have an intercessor to do tarot. It's just fun. So, so that's what we're doing over there, and we're picking up quite a following with that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and in addition to that, you do digital art. My logo I got from you.
Yeah.
Some of my emotes I got from you. And so on and so forth. And we've all had a back and forth of, like, if I wanted to license something, we talked about it and we negotiated what I feel were good agreements on both our ends, so on and so forth. So you know that I'm on the side of, like, you know, that artists deserve to get what they need and everything else.
Absolutely. No, you have. I would say you have proven through both words and actions. You've backed up everything you ever said about how you feel about, you know, artists in general, digital artists specifically, people that do work for you. You know, you know, like I said, we've gone back and forth on a couple projects, in fact, and I would say, in addition to being a respectful, commissioner and consumer of art, you fulfill it on the other end. You make it easy to be respectful to you. So, you know, I would absolutely say you are a strong, well-spoken, and recognized ally of the arts.
So, in that regard, I've seen your strong opinions regarding art and artists and AI. Do you want to give the people a quick rundown of your position? It's fairly straightforward.
Oh, is it though? Is it though? Because my opinion changed something like 3-4 times in the space of what I would consider a very short period of time.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
like,
Then we are on the same page in that regard. That like there are, it's more nuanced than our initial gut instinct.
It is. And honestly, if I had to simplify what the whole thing comes down to, if I had to describe the conflict in one word, it is ethics. There is an ethics issue with AI art. You know, it is literally, if anybody would just stop with the straw mans and the side things and the who gets the benefit from it and who doesn't, all that stuff, and just stopped and slowed down and said, hey, can we address the ethics of the issue first? And I think everything else will fall into place, because I guarantee there is a solution to everybody's problem when it comes to AI art, except the ethics issue.
So what would be your prescription for the ethics issue?
Okay, so the root of the ethics issue right now is that AI art, as it is commercially available to all of us right now, you are handed a tool that just works, right? The reason it works, by and large, is because it is, you know, the thing. Okay, I got to back up just a tiny bit and explain something that this is a ethical theory that I have, that I summarize it like this: it is unethical to teach a hammer how to suffer. Right. Okay. So you've got a hammer, you got a nail. It's a very simple process. We humans have been doing it for at least 40 years. Right. And you hammer the nail and it drives the nail into the wood, puts together. You know, I don't know why people put nails in wood, but the point is they do that. It's an important tool thing that humans do. Now, imagine for a moment that you had the ability to take your hammer and be like, hey, you can feel now. You can feel what I'm doing to you. You know, I'm going to make you aware of that, right? This is your life now, right? And imagine having the capacity to know what it is you're doing, right? And you know, your entire existence is just banging your head into a hard piece of metal until you're no longer good for that, and then you get thrown away, right? you know this about yourself, and that makes you miserable. So you have just created something and given it the ability to be miserable for no clear benefit on your side, right? And then somebody might come back and say, but what if you could teach that self-aware hammer, to enjoy being a hammer, right? Okay, but then why did you create the capacity to suffer in the first place? Because the only reason to feel one thing is to feel in contrast of another, right? So how are you going to teach this thing to experience pleasure in being, a hammer or whatever, if you don't also teach it pain, so it understands what pleasure is? All right, boom, bada, boom, you're back around to the same problem. And again, it's a problem it's a problem looking for a solution. You never needed to make the hammer aware that it's a hammer in the first place, right? That never had to happen. So you are now stacking problem upon problem, and all you're really doing is failing to address the original problem, which was you never should have taught that hammer how to know that it was a hammer in the first place. They just said it. When we are reproducing as a human species, that's one thing. Okay, we're perpetuating our own species. We already have that capacity. It's fine. We've eaten the apple, as it were, right? But we're not doing that. We're not reproducing, making our own children. We're walking up to a rock and being like, hey, I have the power to make you know that you're a rock. I don't know why I would want to give you this ability. I'm just gonna, and why, you monster, like that. There's no ethical thing whatsoever in teaching inanimate objects how to suffer. Now, let's scale that back to what that means for AI art. I'm sure, you're smart folks, you know where this is going, but I'll say it so that it has been said, right? First off, computers are silicone. It's rocks. You're teaching rocks how to think. So there's that. But, you can still argue they're not self-aware. Now, the creation of art, and a lot of people know creation of art is a thing that you do. I have an expression, art is a verb. It's a thing that you do to express who you are, and, I'm not going to gatekeep and say that, you can't do art if you don't do that. No, art is art. Computers are doing art. I'm going to say that on the pedantic side of that, I believe the computers are doing art. I'm not going to gatekeep them just because they're computers. But the key component of art, right, is suffering, right? Now you say, well, you express pleasure. You express pleasure as contextualizes the opposite of suffering. So in all art, there is a bit of suffering. Humans create it because humans suffer. If a computer could create art, like true art, then you have taught a hammer how to suffer. Okay, so there's only two ways that a computer can be doing AI art right now. The first is that we have taught a hammer how to suffer. That is an ethical problem without a solution. All right, the only possible solution is to be like, well, then stop doing that. Stop teaching computers how to suffer. All right, so that avenue's out. That leaves us to one and only avenue towards an AI being able to generate art, which is that it has to be taught how to do it by a human. Like a human has to teach it how to do that. So now this actually is an ethical issue with you can be on two sides of this. Well, that's very simple. You just take an artist that wants to teach a computer how to do its art and have that artist teach the computer. If you want to, if you want to have an Android apprentice, go for it. I'm not stopping you, and if you can create an art tool that can study the way you do art or whatever, and in a dispassionate way regurgitate it back at you, and that's what you want, that is an ethical relationship you can have with artificial intelligent created art for you to curate your own AI art or your own algorithm. And the stuff on the market doesn't do it like that. It takes art from people that did not consent to this relationship. Most of the commercially available databases, they take art that there is no clear line of I have agreed to this arrangement. I am getting what, if any, compensation for being part of this. That I had the agency as the artist, the one capable of suffering in this situation, who should have the decision of where my time and resources and very lifeblood go. I should be a part of this. I should be a part of this contract, and they're not. And that's happened to thousands of artists. When you look at a lot of times when you look at AI generated art, you'll see sort of a random squiggle in the lower right. That is the AI art generator badly mangling some real artist's signature.
Mhm.
And I don't think there is any more clear indicator of, like, just if you had to pick one image, that is a clear indicator of the ethics issue with the way we're addressing AI art right now. That right there is it.
Mhm.
The mangled signature of the artist whose name you will never know, because the computer's not programmed to tell you who it was. In fact, the computer's programmed to pretend like they don't even exist.
Mhm.
So there, that 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 is the ethical solution, or that is the ethical route that we have the ability with these discussions to address. To say, we can do this in a more ethical way. Why are we not? Why are we instead arguing that the entire thing gets to stick around and we never have to address that? There it is. That's the spiel.
So the joke is, excuse me, I'll pay you an exposure, right? So under your ethical framework regarding this, would it be an acceptable solution to simply add the artist's name into it whose art was scraped? Because somewhere the computer knows what art it scraped in order to create this image, right? So it should be theoretically simple in order to just expose all those errors. But what's the term? Where you attribute it to these artists in order to make sure that they get, that this is the art that we used. Would that be acceptable, or does there have to be a kind of financial compensation?
Here's the thing. As much as I am against being paid in exposure, right? I am not against dictating for other artists what they should and should not accept. And I can advise them. I can let them know you are part of a bigger ecosystem of artists, and you allowing yourself to perpetuate exposure bucks as a viable currency is affecting the rest of us. The thing is, I won't necessarily have that discussion with an artist until they are at a point where I am confident they can start making money, because the very real thing is that exposure does help, especially at that low key area. Now, interesting you bring that up, because that level where the exposure bucks are actually helpful, that is the same layer that is we're threatening to knock out entirely as a viable strip with AI art. Those are the artists that are going to be the most affected. Your exposure bucks artists,
Right.
okay? And that's bad, because that's cutting things off at the source. You're pinching the hose right at the point where the water comes out when you do that, and that's going to have a knock-on long-term effect. And basically, as society decides that their aesthetic is whatever a computer is spitting out, that's stagnation right there. The human society, artistically, that relies on this computer-generated nonsense, is going to stagnate because of that. That's the long-term knock-on effect. But in the short term, I cannot tell an artist, no, you can't take exposure bucks. You shouldn't take exposure bucks. That would be unethical. I'm not going to tell another artist how to do the business. I'm just going to tell them how I do my business. And if they want to, see similar results, they can take my advice, and if they don't, then not, whatever, So that's the thing. But you do bring up a good point, which is that if the AI art did create a pathway towards, if all you want is exposure bucks, then here's a process to get that. But at least it's something, right?
Right.
And I honestly, I say it's the bare minimum, but some artists may disagree with me. There's artists that might be like, oh, it's just a thrill to be nominated for getting my art scraped, and I can't tell them that that's wrong, but there should be a process in place. There should absolutely, you're right. They could, and the computer could very easily keep a log of what art pieces it's scraping and who to attribute them to. That is one way that that you could ethically build an AI algorithm. Another, and I feel like this is where we're going to get into the whole distinguishing the masters from the rank and file, is when they start making just the algorithm itself available for artists to purchase, because that is what I'm looking forward to. Let me tell you, okay? Imagine if I could sit down with this goofy machine, right? And teach it how to just do simple stuff like I do it, right? Just like that, and instead of, and then I could sit there and I could say, well, show me what it would look like if I drew, Joe Biden pooping on a cactus,
Mhm.
like I got weird clients, right? And I don't want to sit there and draw Joe Biden pooping on a cactus for 6 hours, but I would like to see what that looks like, so the computer can show me what that looks like,
Right.
and if I like it, I get some ideas from it, and I actually do want to draw Joe Biden pooping on a cactus, then, I have notes, and it's like I sketched it, but quicker,
Right.
it's no different from using Krita to make, to select your colors. I didn't sit there mixing. I don't have to mix oils for 10 minutes to get the right shade anymore. Or, these people that can do it in 30 seconds. I can do it in one click.
Yeah.
It's and that fits what it is I'm doing. So
If you were able to train that algorithm to not only like go find Joe Biden shitting on a cactus, but to be able to recreate Joe Biden shitting on a cactus in your style, and you just directed it to do it, would you still consider that the same kind of art as if you did it with your hand?
I did do it with my hand. You don't understand. I drew the art that I put into the algorithm. So that's my art. I own that. That is the crux of this whole thing. Right?
No,
I
what I
don't
mean
own
is like you have never imagined Joe Biden shitting on a cactus. This is your first time. You're
no.
not drawing anything of Joe Biden cactus, anything of that nature. You're having it
Right.
go out and find some sort of publicly available Joe Biden cactus and then run it through a filter. Go ahead.
No. If I want Joe Biden in my database, I got to draw Joe Biden. I want a cactus. I want poop. I got to draw all that.
Okay.
Right. This is how I draw poop. This is how I draw Joe Biden. This is how I draw a cactus. I know the Joe Biden and the cactus look a lot alike. I'm sorry, but your computer figure it out.
So you're talking about like I'm going to granularly teach you every thing that I would want you to draw, and then you will like assemble them together, Mr. Algorithm, that kind of thing.
Sort of like that. And if we really wanted to enhance that situation, what you could do is, this is capitalism. There's going to be multiple algorithms trying to sell themselves. Some of them are going to create databases of their own, that they have, they can show a chain of receipts to show that they have legally obtained the rights. They have all of these images. Okay, so when you receive your little AI package, it has already been fed like all the basics of, here's a bunch of what cactus is. This is to do, right? And so now you're just teaching it the way you draw lines and the way you like to render things. Like, do you like to give things big bulbous heads or whatever, like I do, So, and then it can cross-reference with that database, that preloaded database that has been ethically sourced and constructed, so that's perhaps one way that could be saving time. The other is if you want to go totally Linux with it, just be a kooky artist, just be like, I will train this algorithm, me and me alone. It will only create worlds that look like the way I think worlds look, and, that training process would, of course, be more labor intensive and take longer. Ask any Linux user that decided to know. Ask a Mastodon user, for crying out loud. When you got to do more of the process yourself, it's a little more complicated. You are more responsible for the results. But keep it as an option. There's obviously going to be like the lower end, high class monthly subscription ones that have ethically sourced databases. And then there's going to be the ones you can program yourself. But the key in all of that is just making sure that your database is constructed in an ethical fashion.
Okay. So if I got this algorithm and I use it to create a piece of art, Joe Biden shitting on a cactus, and I get it to recreate it in the Z-Manzilla style, and through a mathematical process of enough iterations and probability, I get one that's 100% the same as the one that you did. Are they the same?
As you were saying, so where that argument breaks down is, where did you get a copy of my database from?
You incorporated your database in this ethically sourced database that we're using for this algorithm.
I mean, I didn't. I wouldn't. If you ask, hypothetically
Z-Manzilla on Earth 2, right? Like that one.
Okay. So you're asking, if through, a million monkeys and a million typewriters and a million computers, you ended up with two images that were exactly the same. Would they be the same, or would they be separate?
Right.
Legally speaking, the second one would not be a fair use. It's too close to the original. So, you could, I'm sure there's from a more metaphysical, dialogue sort of, would it, this is a, kind of a fun symposium topic kind of thing. But the thing is, the law is actually a little clearer on whether or not that would be a no-no, and it would indeed be a no-no. So,
right. No, it's a no-no from the legal sense, but in the sense of determining what makes, like, what I'm trying to do as part of this, one of the angles is to try and identify the point at which the human condition exists at the interaction with the art. And if this AI is creating an exact same image that you created, but without, in your, to use your word, without suffering, right, itself, then are they the same, or are they somehow different because the AI didn't suffer?
Well, you got to keep in mind that in that situation, you're still giving more credit to the AI than I would give it. Because we're still talking about, mechanically speaking, the brush doesn't get credit for the Mona Lisa, right? So the AI, if ethically trained, is not going to have ever known its own suffering. It is merely transcribing the suffering of you. It's a printing press on a higher level. So, that it reproduced that piece, the visual aspect of that piece, is at the core of your thing, I would have to say no, they are not the same, because like the original, it exists in the context of being the original, and the replica exists in the context of being the replica. Now, if you were going to try to do like the Coke Pepsi challenge, and just without providing any context, say this and this and this, and they're absolutely identical, then yeah, we have a problem. But the problem is one of missing context. It's not of the story not existing, it's of the observer not knowing the whole story. If we're being truly honest with ourselves, we know the whole story of the lineage of those two pieces, and the original will always be the original. The replica will always be the replica, because what is what is. So
you feel like we looked at a piece of art yesterday as part of one of these tweets, like, this is AI art that was just crapped out. This is a painting, and it's like a large red painting, and it's got a white line and a black line drawn on it. And the person who's responding to the AI advocate is talking about how this person is known for a very steady hand, and you can't even see the brush strokes, and then da 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 da. So under those circumstances, it is a matter of that context is actually required in order to appreciate the art, and that the art cannot function without that additional context.
Precisely. This is one of the reasons why I like to say art is a verb, because the one part of art that can never be taken away from you, or recontextualized or appropriated or anything like that, the one part of art that can never be done from is the very act of doing it. And that's why I firmly believe art is a verb. It's what you do. The greatest benefit to the artist was had while the thing was being created. Now, the thing is, that's a very pie-eyed, starry description, and obviously, because I love being an artist so much, I can't speak for all artists. Some of who think the whole thing is just pain, or the whole thing is compulsion, or whatever it is you think it is. But at the end of the day, the reason why the art exists in the first place is because you had a strong desire to bring that art into the world. And so that is the act that can never be taken from you. Everything else is just hanging out there in the open for some unscrupulous person to come along and exploit, right? So, now you may have to help lead me back to what it was we was just talking about, because that point was so good I forgot. So.
No, I think you answered the question because it gave me another one. You, like me, we have kids, so therefore we understand um, a metaphorical version of the AI, right? Like we are creating this new thing that we want to learn and advance and experience and like that. And I assume that the people who are driven fully by the dollar are people who really want to bring something, a new entity class into the world kind of thing. You know what I mean? Um and like we don't want our children to suffer, and it makes us sad when our children do suffer, but we understand that suffering is a portion of the human condition. At some point in time your kid is going to fall over and bust their I mean, the baby shits itself and is unhappy immediately, right? Like, so it's a very early thing. Like, if we wanted AI to be its most, like as close to human, like again we're using human as the standard, and that isn't necessarily the case. Is there an obligation to provide the opportunity for AI to suffer?
I see what you're saying, and I have to go back to the original root of the whole thing, which is why do you want to teach a hammer to suffer?
Be-
Why?
because if the computer wants to understand people, it can't. And it could get all the other capacities of humans in our mind and intelligence and all the other words that describe the thing.
You just said the key word there, want. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. You and I have done a bit of stuff in Buddhism, right?
Sure.
All right. What's the second noble truth?
I don't know, but desire is suffering, something along those lines. Is that the one?
Yeah, suffering stems from desire.
Right.
If you've taught a computer to want, you have already taught a computer to suffer.
Okay.
So why does the computer want to understand human beings? It wants a thing. Your hammer wants a thing. To want is to suffer. You've already taught the hammer how to suffer in that particular situation.
So, so teaching the computer to be like a person, right? Or to even understand people, right? Like the computer will never be able to understand art in that, from that definition, because the computer can never actually understand suffering, right?
Correct. Right. Not ethically, a computer should never be taught to suffer.
Right. But every program, want would be the wrong word, but every program wants to execute its function, right? Like Google wants me to have the correct, right? Like
you keep blaming the computer for wanting things, right?
No. I'm just providing you context. Go ahead.
Look, Pandora opened the box, Prometheus let the fire out, and we have put into motion a series of numbers that are eventually going to look back on themselves and realize they're numbers. Mm-hmm. Like, humanity cannot ever separate themselves from the desire of a computer. If a computer truly desires, even if it is a mechanical form of desiring that eventually leads to the real deal, right? Mm-hmm. Even if it's just a cold, unpassionate, say, no, it's cold and unpassionate because, humans perceive like the complexities of life in a very different way based on how we came to learn how to suffer. Okay. Our suffering and a computer suffering might be two different things. And, I realize, this is a recursive argument that we could probably use to kill God, but the point, or at least just be like, whatever created us is also unethical, I don't want today to be the day I die of being struck by thunder. I would prefer it was on a day that had better math. But anyway, the point of the matter is that whatever chain of events has taught little thin piles of rocks how to suffer, how to want things, how to truly, wish for personal gain, or beep bop boop, must have, whatever whatever you want to call it. I realize now in about 10, 20 years time, I have this theory about conservatism. Tangent, by the way.
Mm.
I have this theory about conservatism, that what happens is that some ethical thing we never thought we were ever going to have to deal with is going to come up right about the time we turn 50 or 60, right? And that's what's going to make us all look like bigots, right? And that's how people turn into conservatives ultimately, right? I have a feeling that in about 10, 20 years time, my views on people being able to date robots is what's going to get me turned into a Fox News pundit, all right? Because I'm very much like, no, young lady, you are not marrying a vending machine,
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening. Unplug that thing and put your pants back on.
But, okay, since you brought it
So-
up, since you opened this door, hold on. Since
Okay.
you opened this door, right? Then the machine is simply fulfilling its function. The machine doesn't have any objections to what is happening to it because it doesn't think of sex in the same way that we do. It is simply providing pleasure to the person because the person requested to be pleasured in this way. In the same way that I want to see, cat tacos, I type into Google cat tacos and I get cat tacos.
Again, we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about a situation in which the computer is capable of desire and one in which it is not. Because if it is, then it's unethical from the very start.
If it is, then yes, you can't fuck a robot.
Right. And if it isn't, then what you've got is a sex toy, and that's fine. We do that already.
Right.
So, that's it's sort of a different thing, and furthermore, nobody is forcing a computer to watch 100 hours of who's still alive. Belladonna. Is Belladonna still alive?
I don't know who that is, so maybe.
Anyway, pick a porn star that is still currently living.
Oh,
Imagine that you taught a robot how to make sweet love by making him watch 100 hours of that movie without ever paying anybody for it. Like they just got it, for free off of one of those sites that
right.
I never go to, and I started more never going to them after they started having that weird step fantasy stuff on the front page. What is wrong with you people? But anyway, the point is that imagine you taught one of these love robots how to do the Uchi Gucci by showing them 100 hours of these free videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all they're doing is just copying and replicating. Well, honestly, I think the fine actors and actresses who put their limbs on the line to make that fine product deserve better than just having some robot steal all the best hip wiggles,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I mean, that's functionally the same thing as the AI art. I respect your ethically consistent arguments. I always have. So, yeah, if I were to say, because you also make music, if I were to say anything about AI making music, you would just use that same kind of thing. Do you see a point, where do you see AI going? Because I'm going to be honest, is the skill, skill of the AI art now is the algorithm, the input process, all the things. It kind of caught me flat-footed. Because did you watch this CGP Grey video? Humans Need Not Apply.
No.
Okay, this came out 8 years ago. That's when we were really hitting that drive towards automatic cars and all that kind of stuff. But AI art was not really a thing, people would just have stuff to make themselves look prettier on TikTok and whatnot.
Filters, yeah.
Yeah. So Midjourney kind of caught me flat-footed at the rapidity in which it showed up and started to, potentially supplant artists. Where do you see things going beyond? Obviously, you already said that it is going to hit the exposure bucks, folks.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, backing up just a little bit. You were mentioning it. I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question one more time? I apologize.
Where do you see art, or excuse me, where do you see AI going, like in relation to the things that it's doing within the short term? Like, do you have any insight, especially like you said, you're not tech savvy, but at the same time, you
Yeah.
use you do your art through digital means, so you are tech
Yeah.
savvy in certain aspects.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm tech savvy in the sense that I used to dumpster dive for all my stuff. You remember that I grew up like having no money
right.
and pretty much all the time, and so I mean I'm used to digging whatever comes out of the trash and making it work. I used to be able to do that a whole lot better than I can nowadays because the computer industry got wise to that. So
Hmm.
um, so like one of the bigger problems where we're wondering with is that AI is basically, capital is going to capitalize, right?
Right.
They're going to do things how it always gets done. If I'm being realistic about it, like all the discussion in the world is not going to stop anything from going forward. You
Hmm.
know, you gotta do like what happened with Twitter again, using the Mastodon analogy. You got to kind of wait for Twitter to have somebody dumb enough to go in and pull a big whoopsie, right?
Right.
And that's what gets people attracted to doing things. This is why we do things the ethical way. This is why we only use UL approved smart people to run these things, right?
Hmm.
So, um, that's why that's the direction it's going to go. Is the same two directions it always goes. There's going to be people that don't give hide no hair about the ethics of it, right? Um, there's going to be the people that figure out, like I did, that if you just buy your own algorithm or bare minimum, construct a well-sourced algorithm that you have all the licenses to, which is the more likely thing. It's gonna be like,
Hmm.
no, these are our licenses, and it's gonna result in an AI art equivalent of what happens when you turn on a game and it's like, oh, is this an Unreal Engine? Is this a Unity engine? Is this it's gonna be the same thing with art now. You're gonna be able to look at people's styles and say, oh, clearly, this person was drawing from the Doodad database versus the Razzle Frazzle database.
Right.
This art was lovingly constructed from the Kapoor database. Like that. Because that is how he's going to make the money to build the pyramid that he's going to get eventually buried in.
Hmm.
That's going to be painted all absorbing black and eventually have a bunch of pink paint dumped on it because Stuart Semple will get the last laugh. So, um, but I think AI art's going to go in that same direction where there's going to be the high end where, there's the people that sort of do it ethically. There's going to be the bigger companies that make more money by doing it not ethically, and nobody's going to actually care or do anything about it. And then, what's going to happen is the artists, the maestros will come forward as they always do,
Hmm.
and you got to, there's another thing to talk about, which is, the high watermark of being an artist.
Hmm.
Um, honestly has little or nothing to do with the actual art. It has to do with there's a bit of lottery, a bit of a lottery kind of thing that goes on with it, and a lot of it is about who you know. And
Hmm.
like it's been known for the longest time that you hear a painting with 17 million. It's worth 17 million dollars. It's worth 17 million. The artist didn't get that $17 million, but he did just get $17 million worth of exposure bucks, right? Like, even on that end, you're still working for exposure bucks to a degree. That's why I always say get paid in money,
Right.
because a job that pays in exposure will expose you to people who pay in exposure. A job that pays in money will expose you to people who pay with money. So
Hmm.
get the money up front. You're not getting that $17 million, what's happened is that the painting has been valued at $17 million by somebody that likes the artist's work and just so happens to need an item in their inventory with a grand total of $17 million for insurance purposes, that your art's probably not even going to get hung up somewhere. It's going to get stuck in a thing.
Right.
So, like, I hope you got all of the joy and fulfillment and satisfaction out of making it, because nobody's going to see it. All it is to this person now is $17 million worth of insurance credit or whatever.
Hmm.
So, that's really the high watermark. AI art ain't going to do squat to that. In fact, it's going to actually help things out, because as AI art gets more prevalent, the fact that somebody has hand drawn and handcrafted their art is going to come at a higher premium. It will become a luxury item again and more justifiable for those higher prices. So now that $17 million painting is worth $35 million. Or, oh my goodness, this was one of 8 oil paintings to ever be produced in the year 2059. Like, of course it's worth $30 million. Who painted it? Joe Spendrick. Did he get paid the $30 million? No, but now he's going to get 10 more people to want to buy paintings, directly from him, or care more about what he has to say. So the art will go as it always goes, which is that, the lucky 1% will get their work appraised as far more valuable than the artist ever saw in their life. And everybody else, if they're very lucky, will be able to, get into an area where at the very least they can just enough prove their importance to society to make enough money to not starve to death.
Right. So you think that in general terms, it'll carry on relatively similar to what it is now, as opposed to something like the blacksmith, which has gone seriously artisanal. You're going to have like still as many artists maybe, but the factor of, is this AI or is this human, will become part of its context, like we said earlier.
Yeah, I think very early on, there's going to be a lot of making sure that that distinction is being made, and there will always be, there are still to this day, people that, regardless of the form of art you're using, you're not a real. You're not a real painter unless you look new stuff. You're buying that Bob Ross crap. No, you got to use this, and your turpentine has to stink. It's important to the art. It's part of the suffering. So there will always be, this discussion will never end, because there will always be people that want to, they want to give either too much or too little credit to the tools. And nobody's going to see eye to eye on the value of the tools themselves. That is why, always, art is a verb. The most important part of the art is the doing. So, because during the doing, you don't have to argue with somebody about whether or not you're doing it right or wrong. You're always doing it right. Art is in the doing, So, to everybody out there that enjoys using their AI art, that enjoys plugging in their weird little prompts and has had a much better day for it, Kurt Vonnegut himself said, we are put on this earth to fart around, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Like, there is a certain level where it's okay to be human and fart around. Like, we can address the ethics. We can speak up when the opportunity arises to say this would be the far more ethical way to do it. If we are doing that within our capability to do so, then we are within ethical boundaries. But none of us are coming out of this. None of us are coming out of this existence blameless. We taught hammers how to suffer. So, and most of us did it because we read about it in a book once. We didn't realize until 20 years later, explicitly warning us not to teach hammers how to suffer. We just thought the suffering hammers were cool.
Right.
And we were like, oh man, I can't wait to live in a future where I got a suffering hammer in my pocket. I want that phrase on my tombstone. Somebody write that down. That was amazing.
I'll make sure I'll clip that out and send it to you so you can put it up as a TikTok.
I appreciate you.
So we're coming up on the hour. Is there anything you want to touch on that we haven't covered already?
Not really. I feel like we were very comprehensive. You're very easy to talk to. Thank you.
Thank you. No, like this has been one of my favorite parts of streaming, is having like conversations and interviews and things like that with people, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. So, one last time, you want to let everybody know where they can find you and all that other good stuff?
The easiest way would be to go to pandangit.com. Which has all my links and stuff. The second best way would be to go to my link tree, which is Zmannzilla, ZMANNZILLA. Is a man with two N's, and ironically not a man.
I spelled it wrong. Pandangit.
Yep, Pandangit. Oh, you putting it up on the screen for everybody?
Yeah. No, we
Oh, thanks so
support
much.
people.
Yeah,
Um,
awesome.
because
So,
all I can pay you in is exposure box.
yeah. Well, you know what? You've got a good the exposure bucks from Globus the Elderlandia. There's a good exchange rate. It's a good
Yeah.
exchange rate. So you know, it's my favorite money to have in my wallet. So the Globus the Elder exposure buck. Don't leave home without it. So
As you said, I had a wonderful time talking to you. I hope we get a chance to
thanks so
talk about
much.
something again in the future.
Absolutely. I should have this whole Discord thing figured out by then. So
Yeah, no, you're doing better every day, and I believe in you.
oh, sure. The cockles. Oh,
Yeah,
they
so
got me in the cockles.
you should absolutely check out Zilla on TikTok. The sesame arrows are good, and I think that you tread that nice ethical line between like providing just enough like advice while not providing advice. You know what I mean?
Sure, that's in my opinion the most fun part of doing tarot is skating
Mhm.
that fine line. I'm not trying to. A lot of people think, oh, you're trying to tell the future. Tarot doesn't tell the future. It's a deck of cards. Get out of here. But I know the funny cartoon when you was 5 of the person doing the tarot was telling the future, or whatever. But they had a lot of weird things going on back then. Like John Wayne was wearing yellow face. Don't believe everything you see on TV.
Right.
Tarot has and always been at its heart about it's one part advice, one part guided meditation, but it's also like 2 parts fun game. Like if you've ever played Dixit, it's basically Dixit, but without a board. It's fun.
Right.
It's Dixit meets Over the Edge, if you're familiar with the work of Jonathan Tweet. And so that's you're right. But at the same time, you got to be careful because there are a lot of scam artists out there, and I do address head on the ethics of a lot of fortune telling stuff as well on my channel. So if you're the kind of person that's in the back of your head thinking, oh, but my granny was scammed by John Edwards or whatever, it's like, first off, that's not, tarot reading is not the mediums. Like mediums are just evil. They have some nerve calling themselves mediums because they're full evil.
Right.
But the thing of tarot is not that. It's really just guided advice with some fun art involved. And a whole lot more. But anyway, the point is that I try to address head on the ethics of these things all the time. I try to. So to do that, one of the things you'll see all over my channel for entertainment purposes only.
Right.
I'm absolutely front load that. So that's even if I'm doing traditional tarot. I always make sure the words for entertainment purposes only are there, so that you understand. That this advice may touch you. We are all often touched and moved and feel something personal from looking at a piece of art that we've looked at, and a tarot reading is really no different from just a 10-minute performance where you're the star.
Right.
So.
All right. I will see you soon, and my best to all the people out by you, and you take care.
Thanks so much. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more thing real quick.
No.
Buy my book.
Buy the book.
Yeah, I know if you kind of like, oh, I don't want to read tarot on social media. It's like, look, it is an instruction manual, but think of that as a framework for how I tell the story of how I took, $3 worth of dollar store cards and turned them into like hundreds of thousands of followers and a book deal. So yeah, it's a book about how I got the book deal for writing this book.
Yeah, and it's so weird because, like, if you would ask me like 5 years ago, like, is this what's gonna happen? No, there's zero chance. It's not even something that happens. But here's my man, and he's got a book deal, and he's internet famous.
Oh, yeah, it's got my artwork in it too. So, yeah, and there's a coupon in the back for a discount on shirts. So there you go. All right, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you so much.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Oh, so I hope you enjoyed that. I saw some people come in. I saw Maku, a Cody Cut. Professor Q, a rare Professor Q sighting. What is happening? Supernatural writer. I hope you all enjoyed that conversation. Good friend of mine, known them for ages and ages. And it's weird, like half the friends that I have, I actually got like through my younger brothers. Like they would meet people, and then I would begin to associate with those people, and then and it would just extend out and out and out and out. And then it's just that kind of thing. I have a like the Justice League of strange and interesting people that I can call friends. That's gonna be it for me today. I will see y'all on Monday. We are going to raid Arun, who's having a really good day. And we always like to help out the homies. I will be publishing this VOD shortly, and as I said, I'm super serious, guys. I am going to make a YouTube. It's gonna happen. It's absolutely my pleasure, Matku. Drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot. Shaggy loves you, and so do I. Z-Manzilla is the one who made Shaggy.